Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the afternoon. Joining me virtually today on this final Tuesday Reviews Day of the offseason, it is not only Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor, but also Broad Street Hockey's own Kelly Hinkle. And that's where we have to start with today's programming. The question on everybody's mind, Hinkle, Pearl Jam.
Incredible. Quite possibly one of the best two runs, like back-to-back shows that I've ever experienced. So good. Really good shows. Got to hang out with a bunch of cool people. Very excited to talk about GOON.
I know you are. Yesterday I was like, you know what? We're just doing it. We're just going to talk about GOON. It is the last Tuesday Reviews Day of the offseason.
Welcome to Hot Ice, everyone.
Yeah, I just didn't have that much, honestly. I was like, oh, you know what'll fill half an hour? GOON. But no, it was fun. We had fun watching it, and we'll be sure to get into that later in the show. But we have to discuss a very, very serious issue first. Charlie, why do you hate Matvei Michkov so much?
Oh, many people are asking.
Oh,
it's a hot topic on the internet.
Why don't you believe in Matvei Michkov? What are you? Do you hate Russians? All Russians?
Why are you throwing cold water, Charles?
Yeah, just throwing cold water on all of us.
It's very obvious that I think extremely highly of Matvei Michkov. I do. And I think that most likely he is going to be a really, really good NHL player. I just am my general, and I've said this on the show before, if there's one connecting thread for basically everything I tweet and say, it is be less certain. And I think that is my overarching philosophy on hockey. Be less certain. When people are certain that things are going to be bad, I tend to push back and say they might be good. They might not be as terrible as you think. When people are certain things are going to be good, I tend to say maybe there is a chance that this isn't going to play out exactly the way you're dreaming it's going to play out. I think based on Matvei Michkov's track record in the KHL and the fact that he is doing things at an age in the KHL that basically no one else has really done. Now, again, this is where you get into devil's advocate. The KHL is not as good as it used to be. So it where it was 6-7 years ago is not where it is today. So that is something you have to keep in mind. But based on the records that he has put up in the KHL thus far as a teenager, based on what I know about his talent level, based upon the conversation I've had with people I trust, I am fairly confident that Matvei Michkov is going to be a really, really good NHL player. But I'm not willing to say with certainty that he's going to be a star, because it's really, really hard to become a star in the NHL level. And while that's obviously what we're rooting for, I'm not ready to say that he's going to be a star. But to be clear, I wouldn't be ready to say that about anyone. I don't think I'm ready to say that about Macklin Celebrini. And I think Macklin Celebrini, first overall pick. I'm not ready to say he's going to be a superstar. Now, I'm very easily going to say he's going to be an above-average NHL player. It's really hard to be a superstar. And while those two guys right now, Celebrini and Michkov, probably have the best chances of being superstars out of all the prospects in hockey right now, I could see worlds where both of them end up just being good players. And I'm not ready to just guarantee that Matvei Michkov's going to be a superstar. Some people are, and that's fine. If you're a fan of the Flyers and you want to guarantee, you want to say that Matvei Michkov is definitely going to be a star, and I know because that's the only way I envision it playing out, that's fair. That's the fun of being a fan. I'm covering the team, and I've seen enough players who I thought were going to be really good end up just being okay to say with 100% certainty that Matvei Michkov is going to be a star.
Let me ask you a question. So, okay. If he's not Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, if he's like the tier down from that, do we imagine people are going to be pissy about that? Or do we think we're okay with I'm trying to think who I would put in that tier. My brain is blank. Travis Konechny. No, I'm just kidding. That was a joke. like Leon Draisaitl, like if he's, just one tick down from superstar, like that's still good, right?
If he's not...
Kelly, here's my answer to that. That is the level, in my opinion, that Claude Giroux was at, and people yelled at him and said he wasn't a star.
Well, shit, yes. Charlie, you make a good point.
We're
in for a long time.
Yeah, that level means you need another one of him. Like that's what that means. Like a light version of him, like the way you have McDavid and then Draisaitl. Draisaitl's probably amazing without McDavid, but there's no way he's a $14 million player without McDavid, Like the way it's like McDavid light is your number 2. If he's that step down, Michkov, pronouns pal, if Michkov is that step down, then you need another Michkov because you don't like that's what
I wouldn't go that far.
Does Nathan McKinnon have a step down? Who's the step down in like who's
Brandon, Landeskog, Makar.
And they
I
have
was thinking about Landeskog because he was dead for 10 years.
He is still dead.
3 defensemen. Yeah. He's coming back, Charlie. Landeskog is coming back, he said.
I really hope Gabriel Landeskog comes back. I like him a lot as a player. I want him to return from this injury.
Yeah.
But Makar is probably like the other Batman to McKinnon's Batman. But honestly, Nathan McKinnon, he's honestly a perfect example. And I'm going to pull up the numbers here because Nathan McKinnon, I think we all agree, is one of the top 5 best players in the NHL right now. If
best
not
in the league, if you ask me.
If not top 3. Okay, Nathan McKinnon is awesome. We all agree Nathan McKinnon is awesome. It took Nathan McKinnon, who was a first overall pick, okay, great player, one of the best skaters in hockey. It took Nathan McKinnon until his 5th season before he hit superstar levels.
Yeah.
With Michkov, if it takes Michkov 5 seasons to hit superstar levels, the interim, because people are certain that Michkov is going to be a star, if it takes 5 seasons to become that level, those 4 seasons are going to be hell. Because people are going to be like, he's a bust. He didn't live up to my expectations. That's all I'm saying. Just like, it's not the end of the world if you don't build yourself up to think that he's like definitely going to be a superstar. And McKinnon eventually got there, but it took him some time. It might take Michkov some time to get to where he's ultimately going to go. I don't think we should go in being like, well, he's definitely a star. He's going to be a star right from the jump. I hope so. And that'd be awesome. But if it took Nathan McKinnon 5 years, there's a chance it might take Matvei Michkov a couple. Just saying.
Absolutely. And this is where I jumped in. If you don't understand where all this is coming from, it's a Twitter argument Charlie was in yesterday that I was having a lot of fun reading, simply because, Charlie, having been your host for the better part of a decade, as I turn off my... There we go. Do not disturb. Having been your host for the better part of a decade, you do have to learn. Charlie is not going to just give you, and I think it's great. I think it's a great way to be an analyst, especially for what Charlie does. He's not going to sit here and be someone we hate, like a talking head who just spouts off hot takes. Like that's not what you're going to get out of Charlie. And if it was, something tells me Broad Street Hockey and then now PHLY Flyers would not exist, and certainly not to the level of success it did, because every clip that one of us got wrong, it would be like, well, they got it wrong. And that's really what it comes down to, is people, even though they say they hate Skip Bayless, they hate Stephen A. Oh, no, they destroyed sports media. There's a reason those guys are millionaires and their shows have been on forever. Like people actually want it, even though they say they hate it. And like, that's not the kind of show I'm interested in doing, because it's disingenuous and I've tried it and it sucks. I don't like it. So I do this kind of show instead. But I think I learned a lot of that from doing the show with Charlie, where it's, you don't just have to say X, Y, and Z and then be like, I was right about Z. Everybody tell me, look how right I was. At the end of the day, being right and wrong doesn't freaking matter. And you can tell that because Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless are millionaires whose shows have been on forever.
The time.
And they're wrong usually. but people just love the clips. They love something they can dunk on. And if you don't give them something that they can bookmark and come back to and say, see what you were wrong about, it's like, no, what we're trying to do is, yes, absolutely entertain you. And that's why I say I do the singing and dancing. And Charlie does the facts. Like, what we're trying to do here is give you a show where you can just form an opinion based on the information we give you. I have lots of opinions. They change regularly because oftentimes I forget what they are. I don't remember what I thought last September. No idea, quite honestly. So what I'm telling you today is what I feel today, and what I tell you tomorrow is what I feel tomorrow. But that's just simply not the type of show we're going to do. And it's definitely not what Chuck's going to give you, because he is an analyst. He is analyzing whatever information he has.
Reality.
I test the numbers, experience. He's analyzing.
But I do think, though, I think you can. I think one can watch Matvei Michkov play in the KHL and look at his numbers and read the scouting reports and come to a conclusion that you are 100% convinced that he's going to be a superstar. I think that's fair, especially if you're a fan. And be convinced. That's great. I honestly, I love the enthusiasm. And it's not like I think that the people I was talking about this on Twitter with last night and this morning are being disingenuous. I don't think they are taking a hot take stance for the sake of taking a hot take stance. I think they honestly believe that that barring injury or some type of act of God, something terrible happens to Michkov or whatever, and we certainly hope that doesn't happen, that there's no way Matvei Michkov is not going to be a superstar. And I love that enthusiasm. It's just not the way I look at things. It's not the way I'm ever going to analyze hockey, because to me, hockey is just so random and there's so much variance involved that I don't have the confidence to be 100% sure of anything. I just don't. And I get that some people don't have those same qualms, and that's fair. But and I said this to somebody this morning, it's just if you're trying to get me to say that I think with 100% certainty Matvei Michkov is going to be a superstar, I'm not going to say it because I don't believe it. And that doesn't mean that I don't think he's going to be really good. That doesn't mean that I don't think that he has the ability to be a superstar and that might ultimately be how it plays out. He easily has the best chance in the organization to be a superstar. He probably has one of the best prospect in hockey right now to be a superstar. Maybe Celebrini is the only one who might have a higher likelihood. But I don't think it is 100% certain, because there's a lot of things that could go wrong. I've talked to some scouts that aren't as high on Michkov in the game at the NHL level because they worry about his size. They worry about whether it's going to translate. It's not like it's a universal consensus that this guy's going to hit the NHL and dominate right off the bat, or by year 2 he's going to be one of the best players in hockey. I really hope that's what happens. I am rooting for it, not because of a fandom, but because it's a lot of fun to cover a really good player. I did it for a long time with Claude.
I was going to say, how would you know?
I want to do that again. I want to cover a really, really good player who is battling for MVPs on a yearly basis. It's a great storyline, and it makes hockey a lot of fun to watch. So I want that to happen. It's just that I'm not ready to say it's definitely going to happen. I want to wait and see a little bit.
So I was gonna say, I've done the DNVR pregame a bunch of times, and it looks like they're having a lot of fun.
They look like they have a blast.
It looks like every day is a great. When they lose, they're like, "Oh my god, what happened?
What happened?"
It's the Flyers lose. It's like, yeah.
Well, I don't know if you saw this. This was about, I think, 2 weeks ago. It was when we were doing our top 20 prospects list, and one of the DNVR guys added me and basically said, man, we're doing our top 20 prospect list, and once we get to 14, I don't even know who to pick. And I responded, I'm like, well, you want to trade? You can have our prospects and we'll have your roster. That would be awesome.
That makes me want to fight. That is literally, that's the little Boston kid you hate with the 14 years old 8 parades. That makes me want to hit whoever that was. They're colleagues, and I'm not actually going to hit them, but I just watched GOON. I just watched GOON. I'm a little fired up. Working from home today, drank way too much coffee. Yeah, but no, Charlie, that last monologue you just had though, it is rife with opportunity for like Dr. Evil Gritty to either have you saying 100% Michkov is going to be a superstar or 100% he's not. Just to let you know, I would expect that, quite honestly. Let's do the mailbag question before we get to the reads, and then we can get into Goon, because it was just an interesting question, and I think I know the answers to it, but it came from a listener, Gary Litka. Says, quick question for Bill and Charlie. Does Kolosov's agent risk being disciplined or decertified by the NHL if he advises or works to get Kolosov another deal while he's under contract with the Flyers?
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to this. I would assume there's probably something in the CBA to govern it. I don't want to just be guessing and saying, well, this is like what it is. My assumption, and this is just a guess, usually KHL players have multiple agents.
Yes.
They have an agent for their European side, and then they have an agent for their North American side. My guess, and this is just a guess because this is the first time I've really seen this question, is that Kolosov would let his KHL agent negotiate the contract and get the commission. He would not have his North American agent do it, because I do suspect that, yeah, the NHL would frown upon an agent basically collecting functionally 2 commissions, although I guess the Flyers wouldn't pay him the contract if he doesn't show up. But still, I do think the NHL would probably frown upon that. So my guess is that if Kolosov were to sign a second contract while the Flyers contract is technically active, I would guess he would do that through his Russian agent. That would be my assumption.
If he does this, if he just blows off the Flyers contract completely and signs a new one because he's decided he doesn't like the other one that he signed with his pen.
Right.
Can he play in the NHL again? Like, or is he like totally screwed?
I mean, it just comes down to what the NHL
think of
says.
another, I guess.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, the obvious one is Fedotov. Fedotov did sign a contract, and then ultimately, when that contract was up, they terminated what was left of the deal, and then he came over and fulfilled the other contract. Now, obviously, the Fedotov situation was a little bit different. I think like there was what's that? Well, again, yes,
yeah.
The NHL contract was still in effect. It was told. And then Fedotov went and signed a KHL contract. Now, yeah, you can make the case that there was coercion there, and probably the NHL took that into account. But purely going by what happened, Fedotov signed a KHL contract while his NHL contract was still in effect, and now he's in the NHL. So really, it just comes down to what the NHL wants to do. In theory, yes, I guess the NHL could refuse to accept a new contract from Kolosov because they feel like he did them wrong. But my guess is that, like, if the Flyers are okay with it, in the end, the NHL will just be like, okay, it's fine, don't worry.
Probably depends on how good he is.
I don't think they're going to kick Kolosov out of the NHL forever if he signs a contract with KHL. It's just going to be a controversy like it was with Fedotov.
Right. Charlie, I think the Flyers have another agent problem on their hands.
Oh, boy.
This Players Agent LLC that represents Kolosov, and it is a Russian agency, mostly KHL and foreign players. There's a couple of guys in the AHL right now that still represented, at least according to elite prospects. But Wade Allison, this is the problem.
Player Agent LLC?
Players Agent LLC.
That's somehow like jankier than what our LLC was called.
Ice Sport LLC.
Ice Sport Enterprises.
Ice Sport Enterprises. That's what. Yeah. He the Players Agent LLC represents Wade Allison. I think we've figured out the problem here. The Flyers have yet another agent enemy, and it's because
why
of Wade
would
Allison.
Danny Briere do this? Is the question.
Of course, Wade Allison is over. He is playing overseas now, so perhaps he signed with him following his departure of North America.
That's fine.
Yeah, and Kolosov's and Kolosov's new agent is Dan Milstein. He's his agent in the States. That was the whole thing. He changed agents. I believe he used to have JP Barry, and then he switched to Dan Milstein, who represents a lot of Russians. I don't know off the top of my head who Kolosov's KHL Russian-based agent was, but I know he had
So on Elite Prospects, it still just has his KHL agency, but not his actual agent listed. So yeah, it's that. I assumed my answer to the DM was, I'm going to ask Charlie and I'll look this up at some point. But my guess is there's usually foreign players hire a North American agent. And when they're back overseas, but when they're back home, that's a totally different thing. So it wouldn't be like, oh, well, this guy's getting decertified by the NHL. Like, I don't know, man. I'm going to guess Players Agent LLC. Not exactly the, yeah.
So Dan Milstein has a lot of clients in the NHL and the KHL for that matter. I imagine that he would not be putting his certification at risk to get Alexei Kolosov, a relatively minor player in the grand scheme of the hockey world,
Charlie.
A new contract in the KHL. I don't think he would put his livelihood at risk for Alexei Kolosov.
The Flyers' second best prospect, Charlie, the best goalie prospect this organization has ever seen. Are you kidding me?
I mean, I like Alexei Kolosov. He's a perfectly interesting goalie prospect. I would love to see him come over. I really want to see what he is. That said, he's not a blue chip prospect in any sense of the word.
And he's a whiny baby, so.
Well, I'm not going to go that far. I don't know why he's not coming over. He might just be homesick. And if he's homesick, sure. Or maybe the Flyers ticked him off in some way like they did with Gauthier. Who knows?
Kelly, is that where you are with Kolosov now? Like, screw him? Like, is that what you're thinking?
I mean, like, I don't know how else to be. Like, this just seems to be the state of things. Like, he doesn't want to be here. All right. Like, what do you want me to do about it? You want me to fight you? If somebody doesn't like you, they don't like you. You can't make them like you. Like, all right.
That's fair.
Good luck, bud. Like, have fun in the KHL. I'm sure it'll be awesome. It'll be just as good as playing in the NHL. Just as good. And you definitely didn't do yourself a disservice by deciding to go this route. So, you know.
If he were to say, if you're GM Kelly Hinkle, you're running the Flyers.
Finally. Yes.
Finally.
Yeah.
He says to you, I just need another year at home. If you loan me back, I will be there for the third and final year of my ELC, and then everything will be cool. Would you accept that?
Yeah, if I believed him. Hard to say, though. Like, I guess, I'm assuming that Danny Briere and Keith Jones and whoever else has had several conversations with this kid. Like, I guess it just depends on what the vibe is. Like, if you believe he's going to come back, then all right. Like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, who cares if the Phantoms don't have a goaltender? Who cares? Like, but if you're thinking to yourself, like, he's been miserable the whole time he's here, he's always complaining, he's not making any friends, nobody likes him. Like, if there's like a whole host of things going on, and you're thinking to yourself, if we let him go, he's probably not going to come, then maybe you take a hard line with him. But like, at some point, you do have to take a hard line. Like, we call them kids, but this is an adult. He knew what he was doing. He understood that he was signing a contract to come all the way over to North America to play in an organization that had, at the time, not one, but two, but three goalies in front of him. And so he kind of knew what he was signing up for. And then he decided he didn't like that anymore. So, like, all right.
And I will grant a little bit of difference. While, yeah, they're young, and like, we look at them now at the age we are and go, oh my God, 22. But 22 is the age you graduate college. Like, I don't look at the 22-year-old the same way I look at an 18-year-old. Like,
fair. Yeah, I agree with that.
That could be cut for me. No, but like,
oh, jeez. Didn't even think of that.
Like, you don't. That's a freaking adult. Like, at 22, you're expected to go out there and be somebody in the world. Now, maybe he's just like, I don't really want to go, and that's fine. Like, if that's your stance, but you kind of did sign a contract, dude. You know, you said you were gonna do it, and I don't. I really want to see what this kid can be, because I don't love what they have in net, and it seems like right now, of the other two, like, of the three guys who would be in North America this year, he might be the best.
I was excited to see him.
Now, like maybe Fedotov's Checkmonic. Who the hell knows? Like that's a possibility. It's happened. It's happened in this organization before.
I hope he's like him in every way.
Or maybe Ersson is the guy for the first half.
Yeah, and maybe Ersson is that 9:30 goaltender we saw from November to January.
Yeah,
like
maybe,
it could.
I don't think he's that good.
Neither do I. But Charlie, we're talking about possibilities here. You just went on a whole rant.
Yeah,
it's non-zero that he's awesome.
Yeah,
now, contrarian Charles O'Connor.
It's slightly above. It's only slightly above zero that he's a 930 save percentage goaltender. But I guess it is non-zero.
The chances of him being Connor Hellebuck are really, really low. But I guess they exist. Probably he's a league average goaltender because all goalies are basically 906. Like that's actually good now. I know we have to recalibrate. All goalies are 901.
League average now.
All goalies are 901 now. You know, like that's what goaltending is. Maybe he's just that, but it's possible. But I want to see Kolosov because maybe he's better than those guys. But if he doesn't want to come, what the hell can you do?
What are you gonna do?
And we'll get into this if and when he doesn't show up. It seems like he's not going to show up. We're getting closer and closer to that. It would be so funny if he should.
He has to be here tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow
he would need to be on an airplane right now.
The way rookie camp works is that Wednesday is you show up and you do like the early off ice things. Thursday is the first day on the ice. Friday and Saturday are the rookie games. I guess in theory too, he could just skip rookie camp and show up for Maine. I guess that's possible.
No, I'm here to win a job.
Someone check the manifests on all the flights coming out of Russia today just to see if he's on one of them. It's the only way we're going to know.
Well, Belarus.
Straight out of Minsk.
Minsk.
If he were to show up day one of Maine camp, I think that would be the funniest outcome. I'm not here to scrimmage with a bunch of children. I'm here to win a job.
Who do you think I am?
Like straight Kenny Powers. Yeah. Like Kenny Powers. I'm not here to be the best at exercising. I'm playing real sports.
I need that to happen now.
It would be so damn funny. You know what isn't funny? Choosing the right flooring for your house.
That's not funny at all. Very serious.
Listen, I got to tell you about our friends at Empire Today. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring. So you know they've got copycats, but the copycats can't beat Empire Today on quality, service, speed. So they advertise low quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire Today won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does that, they're just putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in their own. The Empire philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is as important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. And the virtual floor designer is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. All you have to do is snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHLY for details, or just call 1-800-588-2300 Empire today. Well done. And I got to tell you about the Shady Rays. Haven't left the house yet, so haven't put on my Shady Rays, but I do wear them every single day. You got to get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. And our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. And they have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. And if that's not enough, they have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. If you don't love your shades, Exchange or find a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal this season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. I love me some Shady Rays. All right. Let's do it. We're all done with flyer stuff for today. Is there anything else even going on? I don't think so, right? It's okay. It's Goon time, baby. It's time for Tuesday Reviews Day. And I got to say, I love this freaking movie.
It's
Kelly,
so
you were
funny.
so right. It was ridiculous to not have gotten to it yet. This is easily one of my favorite hockey movies ever. Was it you, Kelly, who put in the outline the different scenes? Because I went in to write them in, the first two. The Russian brothers.
Yes.
The Russian brothers with the goalie helmets.
They're so funny. I mean, well, I'm sure we'll get to our favorite things, but they're part of my favorite scene because they're hilarious.
They are who I picture the Sedines to be. I think the Sedines are like classy, good family dudes, but I just picture them being the two Russian brothers in Goon. Like, that is just what I picture. I don't know why. I guess they're just
because it's fun.
Brothers. Yeah. But that, like, I hope that that's who they are.
Yeah. I, last week or the week, whatever, the last time I saw you, I don't remember when it was. I was saying that, like, in my mind, what I want this show to be is Hot Ice. Which is a problem because we're not allowed to say bad words anymore. So it's rough for us.
I know.
But I want it to be Hot Ice. I want to, no offense to Brenda, who I love, I want to replace her with the Trailer Park Boys. I want our show to be that ridiculous. And I want there to be callers that troll you specifically every single episode.
Oh,
that's what I need.
That's one of the first things I wanted to say was the what's his name? Pat from Worcester. It was something from Worcester.
Yeah, from Worcester.
I really hope we have one troll caller on post games this year.
Somebody
who
will
does that every single show. That will be my fee.
Bill, don't give the sickos any ideas. They'll do it.
My money's on HC in the chat. He seems like the one. He seems like the one to do it.
Oh, that's the guy who constantly types out "on the hole" in caps every time one of us says "on the hole"? Yeah, that's that guy.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah. This movie is. I forgot how funny this movie was. This movie is one of those movies that, like, you start watching it, and by the end of it, your stomach hurts because you've laughed so hard.
I guess the first question I have to ask about the movie is, Charlie, do you believe that Matvei Michkov can be as good as Xavier Laflamme?
Ooh, tough question.
Oh, yeah. He better be better than Laflamme. He better be better than him. Come on.
I hope he has a little bit more mental toughness than Laflamme.
I would hope he would have more mental toughness, but I'm just saying, some of those dangles, they were pretty sick.
It was nice to watch.
Maybe it was a second overall pick. Yeah. He's got talent.
It's true. I mean, Michkov should have been the second overall pick, but got a bunch of xenophobes running the league.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine if there was a guy who had moves like that in the AHL, and it's like, yeah, he's down there, just kind of doing coke, banging strippers, like, what can you do? Maybe he'll figure it out. Like, that would be, and like everyone knew, that would be the funniest thing in the damn world.
Alexander
Day. I remember when this movie came out, and then when I was following it, and it's completely and totally unfair to this guy because I've never heard anything about him being a terrible dude and having a drug problem and just doing whatever the hell he wanted. But the guy I always thought of him being was Jonathan Drouin, because it's high pick, was kind of bouncing back and forth because he just couldn't totally figure it out. I always equated in my head to Jonathan Drouin, and I swear that is not a shot at Jonathan Drouin's character. That is just he's the guy in my head I always had as the Flam. And if you remember the I Dream of Drouin highlights, yeah. He had some freaking dangles, man.
No, but I guess the first thing that really stuck out to me about this movie is that Steve Stifler is somehow a completely believable enforcer, like capable of beating up like George LaRock, which he does in the movie. You know, like that dude has had a hell of a career. I gotta give it to Sean William Scott. He's got more range than you think.
He's very good in this movie. Like he's also like he's a very believable enforcer because first of all, I feel like those guys don't often look like George LaRock. Like look at Nick DeLaurier. Like he doesn't really look physically like a guy that could just, you know, beat the crap out of somebody on a regular basis, but he does exactly that. And also, he's the sweetest boy in the world, just like the softest, sweetest boy. And everyone knows that the fighters are the softest, sweetest boys.
Yeah.
Always.
I would say that, and this is just my personal experience, what they absolutely get right is the goons are almost always just genuinely nice people, because they look at it, and they do a good job in this movie of making this clear and explaining the appeal of being a goon, because it's not a great life. I mean, you get punched in the face, you get hurt, you know, you get beat up. They mention the head injuries at one point with the parents. It's not a great life, but a lot of, if not all of the goons that make it, they have in their heads that I'm protecting my teammates. I'm doing this for the good of the team, and I'm doing this because my teammates will be better off if I'm doing this thankless job. It takes a certain kind of personality, a pretty selfless person, to fully embrace the goon role. What I will say though, and like, I'm not saying that every single goon is like this. In my experience, goons have been pretty smart. Like the ones I've covered, like they're not dumb. I'm not going to say that they're like, you know, Harvard grads, but the ones I've covered have been pretty smart. Like Nick DeLaurier is a pretty smart guy. Obviously, in this movie, like he is not smart. He is very dumb.
No, I think that's like a pretty universal, like generally, it's like, oh no, like this is the only guy on the team that reads. You know, you know, like, George Paros went to Harvard. You know, like,
exactly.
That stuff happens, but then there are like the Ronaldos who
fair.
I'm not
trying to say.
I'm not gonna. I don't want to insult the intelligence of the man, but I don't know if I'd like pick him for like Quizzo.
He does a lot of his own research. People forget that.
I wasn't even gonna go there. It's just like, you know, but I do think this movie nails like its representation of hockey players. Might be the best of any any hockey movie. And
the locker room stuff is hockey.
The different archetypes,
the good and the bad, it's hockey.
Yeah, like the insane goalie, like the drunk captain, like who's just playing out the string. Like there's so many perfect hockey archetypes that you're like, yeah, I've met that guy, you know, like at different levels. You know, it doesn't have to be the NHL, but you know a hockey player that like fits one of those descriptions in that locker room. And I think that's what they nail. And the romanticizing of the enforcer role, like juxtaposed with the absolutely abhorrent violence. The way they depict the violence, the fights in this movie is out of freaking control. Like Doug Glatt would be in jail. He would not be allowed to play.
It would be on the line of some Jesse Boulerice stuff. There, he was. Yeah, it was. I think that this movie for me, I think, and this might be sacrilege. I think it's like a 1B to Slapshot as far as like excellent hockey movies that like do a good job of being hilariously funny, but also like perfectly capturing hockey in like the way that Shoresy does. Like that perfect, like the emotion of it, the romanticism of it, how hilarious all these guys are, how stupid most of them are. Like all of it is just like a perfect, like, yes, this is the thing that I love. Thank you for making a movie about it. It's perfect.
I think the one thing, and I do agree that this is, and there aren't that many really good hockey movies. We talked about this during this whole summer thing.
No,
There
most
just
of
aren't
them are
that many.
cheesy.
When we
Most of them
watched
are bad.
Mystery Alaska, which Charlie and I both went into, like, I like this movie.
No,
It
you
was
don't.
like, I mean, I enjoyed the 2 hours I was watching it, but was it a good film?
No,
No.
not really. Not really. But the reason why this is, like, this will always, Goon is a perfectly fine movie. The reason why it will always, in my mind, be clearly second tier to Slapshot is there are so many points in this movie that are direct nods to Slapshot.
Yes,
Whether,
that's true.
where it's just like for example, I mean the captain, like he is functionally a parody of Paul Newman. He is. He is. You're basically taking the Paul Newman character and ramping up the alcoholism to 20, and just being like, okay, this is what Paul Newman would be if he was sloshed all the time in Slapshot.
Fair.
This is him. This is him in, like, when he goes to the Minnesota Nighthawks and he's still out there. Yeah, this is Paul Newman now.
And like it's probably my favorite scene in the movie, but the scene where the really, really bad national anthem singer, like,
So good.
that is so obviously a nod to Slapshot.
Yes.
It's and like it's great. It's my favorite scene in the movie. But there's no way they have that scene if you don't have I'm listening to the effing song from Slapshot.
That's a good point.
And I like the fact that this movie wears its influences on its sleeve because it knows that hockey fans are going to watch this movie, and basically every hockey fan has seen Slapshot. And they play up the fact that, like, this is Slapshot for a new generation. They do.
Absolutely. And, like, is it Jay Baruchel or Jay Baruchel? I can never remember how to say.
I think it's Baruchel.
Baruchel?
Or Baruchel or something like that. Yeah.
Like, he wrote the movie along with, like, Evan Goldberg, from Superbad and all those things that he does with he's the Evan.
He's a
of
very
Seth and
funny
Evan.
guy. Yeah.
Hilarious. And like, he's one of the producers. His fiance at the time was Allison Pill, the love interest in the movie, who I just adore. I think she's just the cutest. I just want to hug her. Like, I love Allison Pill. She's one of my favorite characters in the movie.
She's not at all like the main woman in Slapshot.
No.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Fucking
Yeah, she's a much more fleshed out character, and she's definitely more likable. That is true.
And not annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get to some of our favorite scenes, favorite characters, and everything. Let's start with favorite character, and let's start it off with Kelly. Who do you have as your favorite character?
I jotted his name down because I'm bad with names. My favorite character is the goalie, Marco.
Yeah. Yep.
Marco is the best. He's so funny. Yeah. First of all, okay, so I know this is like extremely on brand for me, but it's just the way that I am. The Saskatchewan accent that they have on that dude is so perfect. It's so perfect. He sounds like peak prairie Canadian. And that's a very funny accent. If you ask me, it's a very funny version of Canadian accent. And so that's number one. And also, he's just hilarious. He's so funny.
Charlie, do you have the same favorite character?
I also have the goalie as my favorite character, which is funny because both of us picked the goalie from Slapshot as our favorite character too.
Oh yeah, we did.
You did.
He's also the funniest.
Flyers fans, man, just obsessed with goalies. Just gotta have one. I'll give you mine on the other side of this, but I got to get these reads in now. We're gonna start out with Indeed, because if you need to hire, you need Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. You got to match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global visitors every month, according to Indeed data. You can ditch the busy work. I got it. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. We've all kind of been there, man. Whether you're looking for a job or you're hiring, I've been in management, I've been looking for jobs. It is just hard to find quality candidates. You need a little help doing it. Indeed is the way to go, because they have, it's not just, pull a needle out of a haystack, bring some people in for an interview, see how it goes. They have the software to get this done for you by leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day. Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. So join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get all your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this very podcast. Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And while we're here, I don't know. I guess I got to keep telling you about how great the people at TrueMark Financial Credit Union are. But you should have made the switch already, quite honestly, from your big bank to the fine folks at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Why should you make the switch? Well, first of all, it's real easy. They make it super easy for you. You can see how easy it is by going to TrueMark.com or go into one of their dozens of local branches. Why should you make the switch, though? Well, it's the ownership structure. That's the first thing we got to tell you about. Big banks, where you probably do your banking already, it's probably a for-profit institution owned by shareholders, and they operate with the primary goal of generating profits for those shareholders. Whereas credit unions like TrueMark, credit unions are not-for-profit financial co-ops owned by their members. So if you live or work in Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, or Philadelphia County, you're eligible to join, and member benefits include great rates, lower fees, and personalized service. Who doesn't need some personalized service? They have advisors on site to provide personalized financial planning and expertise so you can learn about goal setting for long-term financial security. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more information, visit TrueMark.com/PHLY. All right, back to the movie, folks. My favorite character is the grizzled veteran, the guy who's been banging for a while. It's Ross the Boss Ray.
Animal by Lois.
Yeah, that's when Charlie was like, a lot of the enforcers don't look this certain way. I feel like when you do it a long time, you eventually assume a character. And that's like, I guarantee Ross Ray didn't come into his career with the Fu Manchu. But he adopted it once he adopted the persona. And I just loved him. Like, he was pretty good. For a guy who's retiring at the end of the year, he was making plays out there. Doug could only fight. Like, Doug Glatt was only out there to fight. Ray's getting into the forecheck. He's throwing the body. He had a takeaway to set up a goal. Like, he made some plays out there, but it'll get to my favorite scene. He factors in very highly. It's probably not the one you think, but I love Ross Ray. Like, Liev Schreiber, like, come on. I just watched him in something this weekend where he was phenomenal, and he was like a totally different dude. He was like a rich pothead guy in a murder mystery or something. He's always awesome, and he's the voice of Hard Knocks.
Exactly, I mean, that's what I was gonna say. He's like, in my mind now, his voice is like the hockey voiceover voice. Like, his voice is
24/7.
Exactly, and that's
for those who don't remember, he was the narrator for
narrator.
When they used to do the 24/7 Road to the Winter Classic shows in the early 2010s, he was the narrator for HBO, and he did a fantastic job.
And those shows were so good.
Can't believe that was 12 years ago. Just ridiculous.
Doesn't make any
sense. They got to bring it back because the Flyers have torts. Like, come on.
Yes, seriously.
Come on.
How does no one have a camera on that locker room at all times, honestly?
Exactly.
I really wonder, like, in the next CBA, that has to be like, okay, we've done the expansion, like, we've done everything, like, our ratings are good, the product is as good as it's ever been, people seem happy. The next route for growth is entertainment stuff, like really putting effort into making that stuff consistently good. And how could Torts not be at the top of the list for people you'd want to follow in a Hard Knocks-esque documentary? We're never going to get it with the Eagles, so give it to me with the damn Flyers. Like, come on.
Please.
All right. Favorite line. You've already mentioned the scene, and I have to throw my favorite line in because it's in the anthem scene. The commentator, where he says, "Well, that was borderline treasonous."
Borderline treasonous.
It is funny every freaking time.
The announcer had some really good one-liners in this movie. Like overall,
Absolutely.
like he's got like a little peppered like every now and again. He says something that's hilarious.
Throws in some really good stuff. He's like, "Well, that was borderline treasonous.
Yeah.
My grandfather didn't kick the Nazis' ass, and the puck is dropped."
And the puck is dropped. Yeah,
it was so freaking. The announcer is he's got a little bit of Harry Doyle in him from from Major League.
A little bit.
Just some outstanding one-liners. What were your favorite lines in the movie? We'll start with Charlie.
Yeah, well, I think the borderline treasonous line, I'll give that one to you. I think the entire national anthem part is just so good from start to finish. It's fantastic. But I do also love, and I'd forgotten about this one, when LaFlamme is fighting with Doug's friend, and he calls him an effing bulimic Don Cherry. So good. So good. And he just tosses it out there. And you look and you're like, oh my God, that's incredible.
That's good stuff. What was your favorite line, Kelly?
So my favorite one is because it's my favorite character. And it's as soon as Doug gets to the locker room, it really just establishes what we're in for, is the goalie saying 2 rules, man. Stay away from my Percocets. And do you have any Percocets?
Do you have any Percocets?
That might be, it's like the perfect welcome into a locker room.
Yeah.
Like when all of a sudden you're like, oh, yep,
Here we are.
It is here. I remember like the first time stepping into the high school locker room as a middle schooler. It was like I knew some of the older guys. It was like, yeah, come dress with us. I was like, oh, this is a different world. This is a little different than it was in 6th grade. Like that's what I feel like Doug is like graduating. Like, oh, yeah, okay, yep, this is different here. Favorite scenes.
Okay, so I have 2. I think one is my actual favorite scene. One I think is the best scene in the movie. My favorite scene is that locker room scene when the 2 Russians are messing with the goalie's helmet, and the goalie's helmet has his mom's face on it, and then he literally the goalie just screams like, "I'm on your team! Does no one else see this?" It's so good.
There's so much in this movie that we can't say on air. That's just so funny.
They really took swearing away from us like a week too soon. Like if we could just do this show and then go to it, but I like getting paid, so it is.
So I think that's my favorite scene because it's just very funny. I think the best scene in the movie though is when Doug meets Ray in the diner. I mean, that is the best. That is the best scene in the movie. It's just so good, and it adds like the necessary like heft to the movie that isn't there through the rest of it. It just adds that like, oh yeah, these are real people, and there are like actual emotions at play here.
And it's like, it's going to be a fight, and we've seen a bunch of fights already, and they've been incredibly stupid, violent,
very bloody.
This is something else. Like this is very, very important to both of them because of this scene. Like he's not gonna just go out. He's not passing the torch by any means. And Doug, he wants to prove he is a hockey player. We play hockey. This is part of the game.
You really get a sense of the level of respect that both of these guys have for each other, which I think is important.
That's a thread throughout. Like the little thing they nail. It's just like when I think it's when he lines up with LaRock. He's like, they look at each other. They're like, yeah, okay. Oh, and then at the end, like, all right, good fight. Like just a little thing that like we know Jay Baruchel, I guess, is a big hockey fan. He wrote a book about the Canadians. Like he does a bunch of everything he does. Like I think he could be making bigger movies if he wanted to. And he's like, nah, I'm kind of just all about making Canadian stuff for Canadians. Like that's like his goal. And that, like you mentioned, they threw in like the Trailer Park Boys are in it for like 5 seconds.
5 seconds. And I totally forgot that they were.
Just to like, hey, yeah, man, like they were the biggest thing in Canada. That was like the time when everyone discovered the Trailer Park Boys. It was like, this is the biggest thing in the world for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that was the Trailer Park. And he just threw them in because it's like, how can I have a Canada movie without the Trailer Park Boys? Like, so that was great stuff.
Not possible.
What was your favorite scene, Kelly?
So I have this weird thing where one of the things that I think is the most hilarious thing in the world, it's something that Norm Macdonald used to do all the time, is when you take a joke that's objectively funny and then you explain why the joke is funny. So the Russian
Norm
guys
did do that.
With the picture of the beach ball explaining why it's funny that there's a picture of the beach ball going behind the goalies because it's bigger than a puck.
It's bigger than a puck.
It's funny.
It's funny.
I die every time I watch that scene because it's like directed at me specifically because for some reason I think that's so hilarious. But that's my favorite one.
All right, I want to take this time to thank all of our PHLY diehards joining us today and all the diehards around the world. We could not do what we do here at PHLY or throughout ALLCITY without you. Thank you very much. If you want to sign up to be a diehard, do so right now, damn it, at allphly.com. All right, let's get to the worst character. This is tough because it's a really good freaking film. And there's some great characters even in the background here. I gotta go. It pains me because he's such an amazing actor, but Eugene Levy, man, come on, be proud of your son.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And also, like, accept your other son. That's something I forgot to bring up. I forgot that this all begins because
he's defending his brother.
Doug Glatt is basically like being the woke mob. Like he is standing up against the guy using the F slur, and that starts an entire hockey career. It's true. 2-movie franchise hockey career. Point. All right, so my worst character is Eugene Levy. Who do you guys have?
I didn't pick one because I forgot that this was a question. So I guess I have. I mean, yours. No one else is bad, really. Like, not anybody else really sucks.
The only other person I could think of is that little blonde guy, Stevenson, because I just don't understand what his point is. Why are you here?
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm gonna pick a controversial one.
Oh.
Jay Baruchel's character annoys the hell out of me.
What?
He really annoys me. And I get that he's supposed to be annoying, but he really annoys me.
But also, like, if that person existed in real life, A, he would follow us on Twitter. B, he would definitely be a diehard on this website. Like,
probably.
He's our people.
He's one of my heroes.
That's who we are.
He's an inspiration.
Oh, man.
Bill is him with, 90% less curse words.
I totally understand why LaFlamme wants to beat him up and spits on him. I get it, because he's real annoying.
Charlie, I thought if we had like a worse scene when they finally all walk around the logo, I thought that would be your least favorite thing in the movie. You hate the floor logos so much.
Yeah, the floor logo's annoying. It's a whole thing, but it's a hockey thing, and they do. That is one thing I do love about this movie, though.
Yeah,
is that
little things like that.
It's abundantly clear, and like Jay Baruchel obviously is a huge hockey fan. It's abundantly clear these people know hockey. Like the one little thing, and like it's not even that little because it's actually a pretty extended scene, but it's one of those things that you kind of have to know hockey to understand that this is very real. When LaFlamme comes back to Quebec and all the Quebec fans irrationally hate him for no reason. And it's just like, yes, that is what French Canadian hockey fans do. If you are a French Canadian player and you don't play on a French Canadian team, even if you had no choice in the matter, you are evil and you are a villain. It is ridiculous, but it is something that you have to know hockey to know to put that in the movie. And I respect how many of those little things that it's very clear they know hockey very well.
So I asked this question about Slapshot, and I'm going to ask it about this. Once again, there were some very obvious nods to the Philadelphia Flyers in this movie. Do we think that is, once again, deliberate as far as like, that's the fighting hockey team? We must incorporate them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
The Halifax
That makes me proud.
jerseys
Yeah.
have, like, they're a Flyers logo. Like, they
It's the
have
Flyers
wings.
logo as an H. Yeah, right.
Like, it's a flying H instead of a flying P. I may have read that they did, like, that was a purposeful choice.
There
okay.
is no way. Well, because there's no team in professional hockey that is more associated with fighting than the Philadelphia Flyers. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it's a different era now, the new era of orange or whatever, and just hockey's different. But if you think, like, if somebody says fighting in hockey, name a team, most people are going to name the Philadelphia Flyers. They just are. It's associated with them.
No, I think that's definitely a purposeful choice, and I'm almost positive I read that it was, like, when the movie came out, which was way longer ago than I thought. 2011 is so freaking long ago.
It was 5 years ago.
I was still in college.
5 years.
It's 5 years ago.
I should have graduated, but I still had another year because the Phillies won the World Series and then went back the next year. How was I supposed to know? You know,
there's a better reason for taking too long than my reason, which was I just didn't feel like it.
Yeah, there you go. Let's hit a couple of super chats and then get out of here. All right, the first one is from Patrick. Charlie, how do you balance being a journalist and being a fan of the team?
I mean, I've made the case that I don't really consider myself a fan anymore. It's never going to fully go away. I grew up a Flyers fan. I know the team. I know the city. I know the people. I think that's a question that probably has to be answered differently for every single person who covers a team. Obviously, a lot of people cover teams they didn't grow up following. I'm lucky that I was able to stay in the place I was born in, the team I grew up following, and I think my writing is better for that because I think I understand. It's not even that I would consider myself like a Bill Meltzer level expert on the history of the Flyers. I don't. But I feel like I understand the fans in a way that somebody who came from like Kentucky wouldn't.
I'm going to be honest with you.
And I think that's a benefit. But in terms of how do I balance it, I mean, I want to see the Flyers do well because it's a good story and it'll be easier to write about and because it's just more fun to cover a good team. So I feel like I more lean towards that. But if the Flyers ever get real good again, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what like my emotions are in those moments. Yeah.
So I'm going to be honest with you. I know that once you cross the threshold into professional journalists, you're supposed to hang up your fan hat forever. But I would argue that the reason that you're so good at what you do is that in your brain still is fanboy Charlie. You can't ever kill him. He's never going to die. Like, you can put him in the back and you can shut the door and you can hope that you don't hear him yelling. But somewhere in there is a little boy getting real excited when the Flyers win a hockey game. And that makes your writing better. It's why I don't think this isn't like a personal slight. Like, if you were covering the Sabres, I don't think you would be as good as you are covering the Flyers, because I do think that despite the fact that you're not supposed to care who wins and like you're not supposed to be a fan, you're not supposed to, like, all of that stuff that like the professionals say all the time, like, it's not a bad thing to be a fan of a team. And I think that having a little bit of an emotional investment, even if it's in the back of your mind, makes the way that you cover the team better.
Well, when I wrote my intro to Flyers coverage at The Athletic piece, you probably go back and find it. I straight up said, like, I'm not going to stop being a fan. And the guy who I cited was Bob Ryan, who covered the Boston Celtics for years. He's like a legendary sports writer for basketball. And he basically said, look, what I do is I consider myself a fan of the team. I watch the game, as a fan, and then I take the fan hat off and I write about the game as it happened and how I saw it. I would say that was definitely my stated approach in the beginning when I got with The Athletic. It changed in part because, and I've said this on the show, like, I felt disconnected from Flyers fans when things got really, really nasty on social media around the pandemic. And I sort of had to Because I just think that, like, in the years of 2020 and 2021, especially when hockey got started again in 2021, people were just really, really angry all the time because everyone was stuck in their houses, and it just became, well, let me yell at the beat writer because what else am I going to do? I can't yell. I can't yell at Elaine Vigneault and Dave Scott because they won't listen to me. Whereas the beat writer will actually interact with me, so let me yell at him and do all these things. And I do think that did kill some of my fandom because I came up through blogging. And when I came up through blogging, I was very much unabashedly a fan. And there were people on social media who I thought were my friends. And then I found out, no, they're not my friends. They just see me as the enemy because now I'm a writer. And I think that did create something of a disconnect, but I don't think it killed it. It forced me to place a larger distance between myself and the team because I probably was still too invested in the idea of being part of Flyers fandom back then. And it made it hurt even more when it became clear that no, a lot of people just didn't view me as a fan anymore because I was a writer. So it's like, okay, well, you're not going to view me as a fan. I'm just going to be a writer. But it's probably still there at some point to some degree.
It'll come back when I steal the Stanley Cup.
I was going to say, when they win.
I'll get Charlie to drink out of it. And then we'll start a whole Twitter controversy like that dude.
Charlie's going to be up in the press box, like ripping his suit off, running down onto the ice. So.
All right, let's get to that second super chat. Let's see. Gary B. Kelly, how sick was Pearl Jam last night? I'm sad I missed Saturday's Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau tribute. Get my Matvei Michkov autograph puck inscribed 7th overall.
Yeah, so Saturday, Pearl Jam did a little tribute to Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau, which was very lovely. They played Given to Fly for them. Saturday's show was like a general consensus from the people that I talked to last night, like a top 5 all-time Pearl Jam show. It was insanely good. Last night, also very good. So as like a 2-run block of shows, not a bad way to spend a couple of days. I'm glad you got to go to one, Gary.
I didn't like him. I didn't like Eddie talking about the Spectrum like that, though.
It was hilarious. And
what do you mean the bathrooms didn't work? They didn't work when it was brand new. They didn't work 10 years before it shut down. Of course, there were rats running around.
They have Spectrum chairs like in their, I don't know if it's like their studio or like their fan club building or someplace. I've seen video of them walking around. They've got Spectrum chairs in it. They are very proud of those shows, as they should be, because they were awesome. Yeah. But yeah, it was really fun. Thank you for asking, Gary.
All right. Is that it? No more super chats. Okay. So that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, you got to hit that subscribe button. Search PHLY Flyers on YouTube. Hit subscribe. Follow us. Set that reminder bell. Never miss a live show. We'll be back tomorrow at 1:00. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers and follow the podcast wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers. My name's Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. That's Kelly Hinkle. Until tomorrow, you stay loose and sexy, Philly.